we still have so much more to cover. But if you're anything like me, you at least want it to look pretty, and then you can dig into more of the cool intricacies and key bindings. So let's set up a theme. Now, in the future, I'm going to show you how to pull in a plugin that has 100 different color themes that you can reference. But until then, why don't we just grab something like this, a general purpose dark theme called Atom Dark. Now, the way we install any single theme is, well, let's switch to iTerm. You're going to switch to your Vim directory within your root, but if that doesn't exist yet, just create it. Okay, so let's go in there, and also we're going to create a colors directory within here. Now, this folder is where you can download any theme you want. You have two versions here. The 256 version, that's good for terminal Vim. If you're going to use Mac Vim, then you can just grab this one. Okay, so let's just do raw, and I will do a wget on it, or you can manually download it. There it is. Now, if we go back to our practice directory, if I go to full screen, notice how, it still has the desert theme. All right, well, I'm going to say color scheme, and if I type AT tab, you'll see that we have access to it. So we run that, and there you go. We have a better theme. However, if I hit, well, in this case, Mac Vim, I can just do Command Q to exit out. But if we bring it back, it defaults to what we have in our vimrc file, right? So let's keep this permanent. So if I hit full screen, actually a side note, notice how it creates and slides over and creates a new window. And then if I were to go back to iTerm, you go through that. I don't really like it. So instead, I will go to Mac Vim Preferences, and I do not want to prefer native full screen support. Okay, so now, and let's reboot it. If we switch to full screen, you'll see it does not slide over. All right, so EV to edit our vimrc, and our color scheme is now Atom Dark. Done. Now, while we're here, let's do a couple more visuals for our font and font size. So let's yank that, and I'll create a new section called Visuals. Okay, so we can grab color scheme and bring that down. Next, for the font itself, I could say set GUI font. Obviously, GUI is going to refer to Mac Vim or GVim. And once again, for terminal Vim, you would just do that through your iTerm settings. Now, I'm going to use a font I like called Fira Code. Now, you probably don't have this installed on your machine. It's free. You can Google it or just pull in whatever font you happen to like. Now, if there are spaces in the font name, then you can use an underscore to designate that. Next, we can use a colon and set the height. So if I do 25, and really big, right? Now for me, I generally prefer a 17, but even that is too much for some people. Just pick what you want. There we go. So that's starting to look a bit better. Now, one thing, Mac Vim has very weird tab functionality. So you'll notice if you add a tab and remove it, you end up with black boxes. You can either just disable your GUI tabs altogether, or if you just go out of full screen and then back, that should fix it up. But that is kind of weird. And why don't we just shorten this a little bit? Next, do you notice this scroll bar that always displays? You may not have a problem with that. I think it's kind of gross. I think it's ugly looking. So I like to remove all of that. And especially if we create a split, I'm going to teach you about splits in the next video, by the way. But notice if I create a split, there are just too many bars here. I don't like that. So let me close out of that. I'm going to get rid of those entirely. Now, if we do help GUI options, let's see what we got here. You'll notice that we can either add or remove various letters, and each one refers to something else. So we're not going to go through all of these, but some things I want to remove. For example, let's find L. The left-hand scroll bar is always present. I don't want that. Next, if we do a capital letter, that means left-hand scroll bar is present when there is a vertically split window. I don't want that either. And then I'm also going to do, I'm not going to look for it, but the right version as well. So let's close that out. And now I will say set GUI options minus equals L, and then another one for when we have a split, and then we'll duplicate this for the right-hand version. All right, so now if I save that, notice we get rid of it entirely. And once again, if I exit and go back to it, that looks way better to me. Now on this note, if you are working in terminal rather than a GUI, you might want to do something like this, where you set terminal colors equal to 256. We want to force 256 colors. And let me add our comments. If I ever skip a comment, that's just because I'm trying to be quick. In real life, I would add stuff for this as well. And I'll do that behind the scenes. So what else? Line space, that is a visual, so I can put that here. Next, I like to split each section by 5 spaces. Like so. Okay, so if I exit out of this, I'm going to CD into a different project, and this just has a fresh install of Laravel, and that way you can get a better idea of how things are looking. Okay, so right now I'm still having to manually edit the file. It would be nice if I could type, for example, Control-P or Command-P and very quickly switch to the file, like you might be used to with Sublime or PHP Storm. I'll show you how to do all of that stuff in a future video. If you want to work ahead though, look for the Control-P plugin. Okay, anyways, let's go into app, HTTP, and then our routes folder. Okay, so Control-Command-F to go to full screen. And yeah, this is actually starting to look pretty good, don't you think?